Welcome, and thank you for joining us for another edition of Live by Heart Today with your hosts, Dawn Spiegelberg and Wendy R. Wolf. Our show begins now. Streaming from Retro Earth Studio and brought to you by We Are Historically, Conscious Brand Apparel. It's time for the next episode of Live by Heart
Today.
Hello and welcome to the Live by Heart Today, show 33. This is a show designed to help you navigate change, uncertainty, and the new world we found ourselves in. We'll talk a little bit about science, a little bit about how our body works, a little bit about intuition, and we'll talk a lot about transformation. I'm Dawn Spiegelberg, a posture therapist and coherence coach. We're focusing on being proactive. Today's theme, lights, camera, action. With me for today's Heart to Heart is my co-host, Wendy R. Wolf, Professional Transformation Facilitator. Welcome, Wendy.
Hi, Dawn. I can barely stay in my chair. I'm so excited. It's wonderful. It's so great to be with you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, lights, camera, action. We were doing some getting ready, and I was seeing that, now I forget that swiper thing in the front to start a whole fresh new thing. Doink! We're in a movie, and this is a new scene. It's so exciting to let go of the past and just start now and go.
That's beautiful. And when you mentioned starting now, it brings to mind something that a mentor of mine has said, which is you have to know where you're at. And it's sort of funny to use an example of going on a drive or a trip somewhere. And I always laughed because when I would stop and ask for directions, somebody would be thinking about the best way to tell me how to get somewhere. But when I would say, can you tell me how to get so-and-so? They would always say, from here, like it was a question. And I always laughed at that because yes, the answer is yes, from right here. But they weren't actually asking it as a question, even though I kept thinking, why does everybody say from here? Because it's obvious. Yeah, from right here. No, tell me how to get there from your house, which is not where we're at, right? So from here was a filler, but the truth is, yeah, if we want to get to somewhere, we got to know where we're starting. Mm-hmm. And there are things that we can do to ensure we get to where we're going, no matter how much construction, no matter how much coronavirus, no matter what's in the way on the road to getting there, you can get there eventually. Mm-hmm. And today's conversation is about where you are and then getting to where you'd like to be, mm-hmm. which I'm excited about.
Yes. And this builds on, we had 4 conversations at the beginning of this series on being proactive, in which we went step by step, the kinds of things to say hello to for us to be able to be with what is and all be able to welcome a new reality and accommodate ourselves to that.
And so
we make a choice. We did a lot about that, and we'll be, I believe, in the next several conversations, we'll be pointing back to that now and then. But this is really a chance to wipe the whiteboard, because it's so easy to drag behind us. Reminds me of Ram Dass, and he was quite famous. He passed a while ago now, but
really,
he passed back in the beginning of the year. But he had this thing back in the day. He had this little shtick where he was like, I'm all about the letting go, right? We think of him as being like this monk kind of person. And he's like, the next thing you know, I turn around and I'm dragging a trailer full of my mementos with me. He's like, you got to watch yourself, or the next thing you know, you've got a trailer behind you.
Yeah.
And so part of the picture that I have for this is like, can we let go of the trailer full?
Oh, so I just discovered, so I heard something new. There's lots of organizing theories, and there's the Japanese joy theory, and I can't think of all the household organizing
Yeah.
tools. I just heard of a different one recently. It's called the Swedish death ceremony. No, the Swedish death organization or something like that. And it's the kind of thing you do for someone who dies, right? You organize their stuff and you distribute it where it needs to be.
Yeah.
But they're suggesting that you do that while you're alive.
Yes. Yes. I've been so blessed to do that a couple times in my life, because when I left New Jersey, we basically said, we don't need this stuff for a year. We thought it was a year, silly us. We don't need this for a year. Who wants our dining room set? It can live with you, and maybe we'll want it back someday. We never got anything back, right? Like, we don't need it. All this stuff, we just, here, oh, you needed this, you needed that, you need a stereo, you need right? Like, gone. And then we did the same thing when we left Seattle. And boom, gone. And it brings me such joy. Like, I have trouble letting go of things, but if my friends can have them, oh, here you go. There's a friend in the Seattle area that has almost all our art, even like Michael's grandmother's paintings and stuff. It's like,
wow,
enjoy. Maybe someday we'll want it back.
Wow,
it's cool. It really works.
Yeah, I'm considering that option. I'm considering to do that, which is funny.
Yeah.
And in order to get there, in order to organize, one thing that I'm noticing is making time for organization. Who thought of that? So what does that mean? During my day, I allocate a segment of it to go through a box that's been sitting in a corner. And this is a structure that I've begun putting into place. Just like I brush my teeth in the morning and at night, just like I tidy the living room before I go to bed. All of these things, right? They're a little protocol that I live by. And it allows me to design and create the life that I want to live. And my husband mentioned something very interesting to me recently, which has been a big motivator, and that is, would you welcome Jesus into your home? Would you welcome the Buddha into your home? What if the Pope came knocking at your door? Would you be able to open it and say, please come in? Or would you be uncomfortable with them coming into your house? Would you have to work to make a place for them to sit down on the couch? Right at this moment, I would, because I've had kids camping out on the couch doing schoolwork. So there's there's a cushion, and the blankets are tossed, and there's electronic cords, right? Like the kids have been using it, and the Pope could not come in and sit down on my couch right now.
Well, there's two issues here. There's what the house looks like.
Yes.
And there's like my perfect pictures about how the house has to look like if Jesus, Buddha, Pope comes. Right? There's two important conversations, I think.
Yeah, that's interesting because I would like my house to look like Jesus could come in at any time. Right? I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with that model. But it doesn't always meet that standard because of other factors that contribute to what it actually looks like.
It reminds me, speaking of protocols, I used to love to have small classes in my house because it got clean. or relatively clean. It got tidied, and
yes.
and the kitchen and bathroom got cleaned, and it, like when I was having regular stuff there, then, it stayed pretty nice.
It was a motivator.
It was a motivator. Nothing as productive as the last minute.
And so that brings us to talk about, what motivates us in other areas? What motivates us to brush our teeth on a regular basis? I mean, that's a basic thing, but it's a great example of what's possible, because we had spoken about the word resolve. I resolve to brush my teeth, and it's a non-negotiable for me. So there isn't a time when I say, oh, I'm not going to do it today, and I'm not going to do it today again, and I'm not. That just doesn't happen.
Right.
Even if something's going on, I'm brushing my teeth while I'm telling my children it's time to get ready for bed. It just happens because I set that as an expectation.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the expectation may be driven because I don't like to have my teeth drilled. That's so uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how do we, in other areas of our lives, create a standard, create a guideline, create a structure for ourselves? Because every day that I brush my teeth, it means 6 months come and go so quickly, it seems. And then, oh, I'm here for another teeth cleaning at the dentist.
Mm-hmm.
And I like getting a big check mark, well done.
Yes.
Your teeth look great.
Yes.
We don't have to do any additional work.
Yes.
But that only happens once every 6 months. So am I motivated every day for that one single check mark? For me, I am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what I'm sure you have plenty. What other systems do you have, practices do you have that are daily?
Mm.
You mentioned you clean up before you tidy before you go to bed.
Yeah, I'd have to say most of my life is based on structure. So while it may not look like it to other people, and my husband who lives with me might say, well, it doesn't look like there's much structure here. There actually is. There's really good structure. So I wake up and I make my bed.
Mm.
And rare is the day when I leave and don't make it. And that's a great skill. I think that's an amazing skill. And there's even some military gentleman did a convocation.
Yeah.
And he talked about the importance of making a bed and how foundational it is to success in your life. And I thought, oh, that's really cool. Plus, this is an amazing thing. When you walk in your bedroom, it doesn't matter if you just did laundry and it's not folded. It doesn't matter if you haven't put away the things on your dresser yet. But when your bed is made, it just feels so good. It's so inviting. And the kids find it inviting too. They like to go in there and they do their homework on my bed. They do, right? There's so many things that happen on a made bed that don't necessarily happen on a messy bed, or it's not as comfortable. It's not as inviting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you work your way through the day with structure, and then.
Mm-hmm. And of course, different days have different structures, but every morning I wake up, make my bed, get dressed, brush my teeth, and make breakfast for the kids. And I've added another protocol to my morning routine, which is check on the chickens and feed them.
Yeah.
So I love having chickens. It's new in my life. They're 4 weeks old and 3 weeks old. And I spend a lot of time thinking about how I can make my chickens' life better. I feed my dogs and, plan when the dogs will get exercise and when to trim their nails. And it's time to wash their blankets, right? Like there are protocols throughout my whole day.
Mm-hmm.
And every week on Thursday afternoons, we get together and we air the show, and it's a protocol. And it's a structure, and I love it.
Yes.
It's an expectation, and it's fulfilling to me.
Yes. And it's so, I mean, we just keep doing it, and the shows just keep mounting. This is 33.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
33
And
shows.
it's possible because I have a purpose. You have a purpose, slightly different from mine. My purpose is to live by heart. And what's amazing about living by heart is all the benefits that come from it. So brushing my teeth every day gives me A+ from the dentist. Plus, I don't get drilling and I don't get the Novocaine, which doesn't work anyway, right? There are so many benefits to it. And living by heart has benefits that are not easy to explain or understand until you start doing it. So I'm pain-free.
Yes.
My relationships are deeper. I can sit down with a teenager and say, hey, what's going on? And get the truth. Even if the truth is hard. I had a conversation recently that was, how's it going being with your friends, right? Because he hasn't seen his friends in months and months and months. So he gets together with them online. And he said, well, being with my friends is preventing me from doing my schoolwork. And I said, oh, what are you going to do about that?
Wow.
Do you need help with that? And he said, well, I'm thinking about it. And, this is a game that they chose to play and they need another person. So if I don't play, then they don't get to play that game. I feel kind of bad about it. So I said, let me know what you decide. And then a couple hours later, I said, if you need your parents to tell you to stop playing video games as a reason to stop playing video games, I can very easily say, stop playing video games.
Yes.
And he grinned and laughed.
That's awesome.
And took it to heart.
Yeah. Yeah, because you want to help him have structures that serve him.
Yeah, instead of some old patterns, which are, you're playing with your friends again? Is your homework done yet? Don't you have this and that due?
That is
it's a
really
very different place, yeah.
Yes.
Plus, I quit eating chocolate. That was a big thing for me.
Yeah.
I live by heart, and I quit eating chocolate because chocolate made me irritable. But I didn't realize it because I thought I was just being normal. And they would say, why are you so upset? And I'd say, I'm upset. And they'd say, yeah, you're talking in a weird, in a not nice way. And I don't know how I figured out it was chocolate, but it's chocolate. Chocolate makes it sound like I'm not a very nice person. So
Hooray.
I gave it up. Yeah.
It's
and
hard, but
when faced with being a nice person,
yes,
and being compassionate and having a strong relationship with my children,
yes,
giving up chocolate is a no-brainer.
No-brainer.
I love it, but I'm willing to do it.
Right. Yeah. And so that's a really good picture right there, because it's like you really like chocolate and
love it. Yeah.
You love your family more.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that's a really good little obvious point about, I feel like, what the point of our conversation is today, about setting up structures and ways of living and habits that actually get us being and doing what we mean to be and do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the freedom that comes with it. So I had an interesting conversation with my husband recently. I practice Christianity and I practice Buddhism, which, a lot of people say, huh, how do you do that? And over the years, I have these beautiful little Buddha statues, and they remind me to be mindful. They remind me of thinking the right way and having the right perspective, having a godly perspective, having compassion like Christ had compassion. But I haven't been able to find any little Jesus statues, right? So now it looks like I just have lots of Buddha statues. And my husband was talking about idols, and having little Buddha statues is kind of like having an idol, except I don't worship the statue, right? Does that make sense? It for me as a reminder. But because we had this conversation, and because of the perception of it may being an idol, I decided that I could put my little Buddha statues away for a little while. And what I realized is that putting them away, my choice to put them away, actually is significant because they're not an idol. I think if I had been treating them as something more significant than they are, then I would have had a more difficult time putting them away. And I would have said, no, why do I need to put them away? But because I live by heart, and because I clearly understand their significance as a reminder that I've had for a long time, and because now I live by heart as a regular practice, I don't require a statue to remind me to live by heart.
Yes, it did its job.
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. As you know, I encourage that. I mean, I don't require it, but I encourage it with people who are learning the inner tools. It's like, oh, when I started, I put up a little reminder sticky in the wallet, in the refrigerator, in the car, you know, the mirror, to ground. And then when I was grounding more than I wasn't, then to center, or maybe even just put up like the little rose sticker places to remind me to be the thing, you know, the kinds of things you're talking about.
Yes.
But like then for so long, for years I did it. I just kept adding a new tool, you know, so that it was all building. And then I stopped because I was being it. Like you were saying, I was being it more than I wasn't, and staying in that consciousness. And it got me there. Because at first it's just way too easy to forget.
Yes. You know, there's been in the world a recent movement called the gratitude movement. And so people have gratitude journals, and every night they write down what they're grateful for. And I love writing in notebooks. So I would always just write in my notebook already. And I found that as I was practicing gratitude, it wasn't that I needed to write it down any longer, just like you had sticky notes, right? Then you were being it. So now I'm being grateful. So anything I look at, like I'm looking at you and I'm feeling grateful for you, and really experiencing gratitude in this moment for you, what I can see, and gratitude for what I can hear because my dogs aren't barking. So I'm grateful for my dogs, and my senses, all my senses are reminding me of being grateful. And that's how blessings work too. I'm blessed to have electricity in my house and to be able to see. I'm blessed to have a full cupboard. I'm blessed to have chickens. I'm blessed to have children. And anytime I look, or anytime I hear, or anytime I taste or speak, it's a moment to express gratitude, which I believe is what the movement of gratitude was meant to create. And I think for me, it worked. I'm not sure about other people, though, because I don't hear about it much anymore.
I don't think it's as in people's faces as it was. I still hear about it, but I'm excited because next week is Thanksgiving, and we're going to be delving into how actively to be in gratitude. Is that your picture too?
Yeah.
So that's a little precursor, like what an incredible blessing gratefulness is, and it is a habit. It's a place to stand in our lives.
I jumped the gun.
No, it's perfect.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah. So, but like the point is that we develop these habits. Like what I say with the work that I do is we invite new blessings, we let them in, and then we fill up, and then we become them. And so like I don't brush my teeth. I'm just someone who brushes my teeth before bed. You know, like I've become now someone, now that I'm living where I'm living, that I get up in the morning very often before the sun, because that's the best time to walk on the beach, before the sun rises, note to self, is when all the gorgeous colors come. By and
Oh,
large, just like, when the sun sets and then there's all the beautiful colors for like half an hour or whatever, same thing happens in the morning. So by the time the sun actually rises, it's pretty like normal, usually. So anyway, I've been playing this game of the trifecta. I walk on the beach and I swim in the ocean and then I swim in the warm pool. And I'm just so like, it's just it's like not even, I don't know, it's habit now. So it's just, I'm the person who does that in the morning and the night. And not every time, but that's how it goes. So we become it. We be the change eventually as we practice, I think.
that's beautiful. And with the idea of being the change, let's take a short break.
Thank you, We Are Historically, for making this show possible. Hooray!
Welcome back to today's Live by Heart Today show. This is show number 33. And Wendy was just describing how change can become us. How with repetition, we can become different.
Yeah.
Did you have the goal of walking on the beach and swimming in the ocean? Was that something you decided specifically?
Well, about 2 years ago, I got a calling to get up with the sun and go outside and move and then start my day. And I've been on and off that horse, but I've been in that direction a lot. And it's so beautiful. I mean, it really, for me, it starts the day beautifully. And I think more than the average bear, I meditate, but I also like to dream and cogitate and let my mind roam. And left to my own devices, I will do that anywhere that I'm comfortable enough. I'll lie in bed, I'll sit on the couch, I'll sit in the car. If I have a transition, I'll just be like, woo. And I found it so helpful when I'm exercising and I do that. Like, I just let my mind feel free, let go of all that discipline of getting things done and focusing.
Right.
When I walk and when I swim and when I, in the past when I bike, etc. It's a wonderful multitasking. So anyway.
I'd love to comment on that.
Please.
Because there is the part of our mind, and I've mentioned this before, there's a part of our mind, and a lot of people label it ego. And the ego measures, judges, compares, contrasts. So it has kind of blinders on, right? Because it bases its conclusions on what exists in the environment, what it perceives. So when we move our body, like you're describing, when you're walking on the beach, which is very tactile, right? It's the sand is not even, and when your foot falls, the sand changes, and so that's a lot of information that's going to your brain, and all that information has to be processed. All the balancing information, all of the wind in your face, all of this information that is tactile, it has to be managed in your brain. And so the ego actually is turned down. The volume on the ego is turned down when our body is full of proprioceptive input, which happens when you're swimming and when you're walking and when you're biking, all that activity. And the part of our brain that doesn't require that, the part of our brain that is more of our higher self, our creative part, then has freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And you come up with some really brilliant ideas when you're out doing those kinds of things.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. And for me, like, everyone's different, that that creative part is very active in the morning. So it's really good tie to be outside, moving. Humans are created for that, by the way, outside and moving, and just allowing. It's a different structure than meditation. For me, meditation is more of practicing a particular focus, and so it's just really nice to have the chance to do both. And also, my body is so happy.
Yes.
To be moving. It's so good for it. It oils up my joints. It gets me going. I'm like, all right, day, let me at it. So.
And the body is designed to move in those ways. When the body is actively moving, that's like reinforcing the life force that lives in you. That's every step is a yes to life. I think Thich Nhat Hanh has said that, right? Every step is a yes. And every movement that we do is what our producer calls accepting what is. He said, if you accept what is so, which is being present in the moment, you can create what's next.
Yes.
And that's what your mind is doing. So you're physically accepting what is so.
Yes.
And then your mind has the freedom to create and imagine. Imagination is brilliant. Amazing. So beneficial.
Yeah. And we all have the choice to implement these, slowly, one by one. I can't make 12 changes at once. Maybe you can, I can't. But like step by step, adding a habit or a protocol or a tendency or into the direction of my values that's going to bring me to the life that I want to live and the impact I want to make. And I'll just add here, like another that really works for me. So there's the, add a new habit thing. But something that really works for me, which I've been doing lately because I have the energy, is it's called throw your hat over the wall. Like I had a new, and then you have to go get it.
Right.
And I just did this with a new offering. I was just like, I want it to happen about mid-October. I was like, I want this to happen. And I talked to a couple people and I was getting like, yes, that's awesome. Let's do that. And I was like, all right. And I set a date. And the rest is history. I set a date. This past Friday the 13th, we started.
You decided.
And I had to run to make that happen. Like there was so much to do to make that happen. So like that drew me forward. So it's the same idea, but like it's like here I'm just like, I would like to, it's a joy for me to, I don't like getting up in the dark, mind you, but it's a joy for me to be on the beach when it starts to get light, and also it creates the body and life that I love, right? So there's that. But then there's also the like, all right, this is gonna happen now. Okay, run to get everything in place to do that.
Yeah. Just before the show, you mentioned something about don't tell me what to do.
Oh, God.
Getting in the way. I want you to talk about that because we've been talking about, make a change. Have, guidelines. Live your life, with a purpose. But let's talk about the other.
Yeah, let's get down to brass tacks. All right. I said it before, I'm going to say it again. Like I've said in this show before, and it's very funny because my business is called Be the Change. And but my body personality, my natural way of being, I just hate. I hate change. I hate it. And so I'm constantly in that dance of change. And the other thing I hate, hate, is don't tell me what to do. Do not tell me what to do, especially me. How many times have I made these great schemes and plans of what I'm going to do, and then I don't do any of it because, no, I'm not doing that. And so it's been this really funny dance, but I realized that structure serves me as much as I resist it. It serves me. It serves me to get out of the darn bed in the dark, and it serves me to brush my teeth, and it serves me to, etc. It serves me to move here to Myrtle Beach, even though it was, it was not easy. And it serves me to start that program Friday, even though, what I had to do to be ready. And I wasn't perfectly ready, so I had to let go of that. I hate all that. Who needs it? Well, it's really painful and crimping and aggravating and lights me up emotionally. But now I'm in a program with people that I love where we're all becoming who we want to be. And
that's awesome.
Hello, or now I'm a person who watches the sunrise and walks in the water along, for I don't know how long, however long, half an hour to an hour morning doing that, and then swims. And of course my body's like shifting.
It reminds me of the quote, and I'm going to butcher the quote, but I think it's by Rumi, and he says there was a point in time when the bud could either, right, the tension of the bud required it to bloom. But if you don't continue the tension, right, if you don't continue the growth, then you don't bloom. It's like a chicken hatching from an egg. The chicken grows and grows and grows and grows, and then there's a point at which it needs to come out of the egg, and if it doesn't, it dies. And how many of us, under the pressure, decide we don't like the pressure, and then we don't grow? And if we're not growing, then we're living little deaths.
We are. I don't know how to say this person's name, Anais Nin. And the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
And that's true of life. Life has pressures. And I remember in my college years, I was surrounded by people who, they behaved differently under pressures than I did. So I remember one incident where I was learning fencing, and it's exercise, and I would get out of breath. So our fencing instructor told us to run outside of practice that we would do once a week. So I started running. And so I gave up the convenience of whatever else I was going to do so that I could run. I made time to run during the week. And then when it came time to practice was a little easier. Like I could focus on other things. And my friends didn't always choose to run, right? They didn't always choose that. So when it came time to practice, they struggled a little bit. So right, there's pressures everywhere. Where you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to something else.
Yes.
So I said yes to the inconvenience of running throughout the week.
Yes.
Which, made the practice time different for me, a different experience. And everybody gets to make their choice, right? Wherever you're saying yes, there's also a no. You're saying no to something else. And when we design our life, when we choose a purpose, when we have a goal of getting up because the sky is gorgeous in the morning, then that is a bigger yes, a stronger than the comfort of staying in your bed.
Yes.
And you get to choose that.
Yes. And could I add more?
Please.
Okay. So one of the mistakes that I used to make is that I used to make my goals, my kind of like shoulds, out of these mental models that I had about like some ideal things, or like what everybody should do or whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't do that anymore. Like there's a whole lot of things that I was programmed to, like, this is how you should be, this is how you should look, this is what your life should look like, this is how much money you should make, etc. Right? There's tons of that. There's no end to that game. And most of it I'm just like, whatever. Instead, I'm making my goals and my actions out of my soul choices and my soul vision, my intent. It's a very different thing. What brings joy to my body, what helps me to actually bring into the world what I'm me personally here for. Like I am juiced by that. So that's one part. It's like choosing my those habits and structures out of something that like I am absolutely magnetically drawn to or compelled for. Is very different than, I should weigh X amount and have X amount in the bank and et cetera, et cetera. It's like, it just doesn't get me out of bed. So, and then the second part is the same thing. Not all the shoulds and have tos of beating myself up into getting up in the morning, but rather to set intention, to allow the non-effort of, because I'm aligned. If I'm aligned with what's possible for me and what I'm here for, it's just so much easier than beating myself into trying to fit in a size 5. This body is not a size 5 body, and that's great. Like, I'm big boned. Too bad. Live with it. But like to let go of all that forcing and actually find what pulls me forward in living those intentions. And I found when all that aligns, it's easy. It's not like I still have to like get up out of the bed, but, mind you, but in the dark. But it's just 100,000 times easier when it's all aligned to who I really am and what I'm here for, and doing it out of the impetus of my soul instead of the good of the world.
Yes, compelling. It's so compelling.
It's so compelling.
That's beautiful.
Because I just don't care enough about the other things. And then it just drops. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd just like to add one last thing, and that is for those people who do the things like society sort of dictates, and I'll use myself as an example, of course. I got married and I had children, right? That's sort of the woman's thing to do. And I could have chosen not to do those things, but I chose to do those things in particular because of my strong desire to be connected with, intimately, other souls.
Yeah.
And so, I talk about picking the underwear up off the floor, but that's sort of just a, secondary benefit of having children. What I really enjoy is being able to speak with them and say, hey, how's it going? And get a real answer. And that's why I made the choices that I did. That's why I continue making the choices that I do, day in and day out.
Yeah, it's extraordinary intimacy.
Yeah, and it's living by heart. That is what is possible when we live by heart. We decide, we live our purpose. We know what our soul is desiring. And then we step into that.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
I just want to mention before we wrap up that I am hosting a little Zoom meditation and prayer on Monday, the 23rd at 4 in the afternoon. And it's called Shine Your Light because we feel as if our lights are being dampened by external situations, by the difficulty of our times. And it doesn't have to be that way. So everyone, feel free to join us for Shine Your Light on Monday, the 23rd. And with that, I will say, Wendy, thank you. And thank you to everyone who's watching today. I so appreciate you being here. We'd like to hear from you. If something we said spoke to your heart, please share it with us in the comments below. And for more information, how you can live by heart, please go to livebyhearttoday.com. Like and follow this page and turn on notifications so you don't miss our program. We're here every week on Thursdays at 4:44 Pacific time, and we will be here next week for Thanksgiving, celebrating that holiday with all of you. From our heart to yours, we are creating a better tomorrow because we live by heart today.
And that concludes this portion of
Live by Heart today!
Thank you for watching. View more episodes on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's give a shout out to our sponsor. Thank you, We Are Historically, for your conscious brand apparel.